Hey, welcome to this new episode. We're going to talk about ecosystem growth in blockchain networks. But before we dive in, it's probably wise to understand why there are multiple blockchain networks. Now, if you've been a market participant or enthusiast, you would have heard of different L-1 networks, L-2 networks, or even L-3 networks. But why do we need these different networks in the first place? Well, it's because of this blockchain trilemma. What it suggests is any single network can satisfy two out of the following three properties, which is security, decentralization, and scalability. Now, different networks are trying to optimize for different aspects of these three properties. While some may need higher security and decentralization, maybe another network supports better security and scalability while foregoing decentralization. Now, it really comes down to what use cases and applications this particular network will enable. And on the basis of this, the ecosystem around this project evolves and grows, right? But who's making up this ecosystem? Let's take a look at that. Well, there are broadly two sets of people. The first set are actually the adopters or users. Now, these are the everyday users who will benefit from the applications and the different protocols and the different innovations that are built on a particular network. On the other hand, you have the developers or builders. These may be, blockchain developers. These may be just enthusiasts trying to build out a project. They may even be startups. They may be funded startups. They may actually even be large conglomerates which are exploring building blockchain applications using a particular network. So your goal as somebody responsible for ecosystem growth or who's overseeing ecosystem growth is to attack these two different pieces. Now, some of you may have heard of this concept of intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Generally, when you're growing a community or growing an ecosystem, you have to induce both of these aspects of motivation for your audiences. Now, intrinsic motivation is something that comes from the inside. So, examples of this could be leveraging the features and properties of your blockchain in the long term to tell people why it's a great option to build or use applications on your chain. Now, extrinsic motivation is a little more short-term oriented, where you leverage incentives to entice people to try out your network or try out applications on your network. Examples of this could be airdrop contests, giving incentives to early participants in your network. Now, there's a time and need for both of these. However, it's a balancing act between these two, and your marketing and your growth activities should cater to both of these aspects of motivation. While you should be doing a lot to get the early audience in with intrinsic motivation induced, it makes a lot of sense in the long term to keep preaching or to keep telling people about the long-term benefits of being a part of this ecosystem. While something as simple as grants may seem to be more extrinsically motivated, there may be a way to switch the grants structure so it actually induces more intrinsic motivation and not extrinsic motivation. So keeping milestones for the grants your network or your ecosystem disburses, making quality selects on the kinds of projects or people that you will be disbursing the grants to can ensure that you're bringing in quality projects. Now, let's look at what it takes to grow users on your network. So the best way to actually get a spurt of users in your network is to let people try a few innovations, like a few early products on your network. And as I said, here's another good example of where extrinsic motivation can help, which is you give away airdrops for early participants. And to keep these people retained on your network, it really comes down to the incentives of actually transferring value within your network, like the gas fees, the smoothness, the UI UX of even operating wallets on your network, So adoption will happen if there is a lot of usability in your network, which is why it becomes important for your ecosystem growth strategy to position itself with a very easy to use wallet where even Web 2 or newbies can easily onboard onto your network. Incentives will further allow more people to come into your ecosystem and to keep them retained. This is where community events around the world, by having different chapters within different cities around the world, will really benefit you. Now let's look at the builder front. This is where developer relations becomes quite important, and then there is also business development that is done to more mature projects, where you go to mature projects and then you try to onboard them onto your network. So again, with getting the developer base inside, you can give away grants to get your audience in. You can also look at actually motivating them by giving them templates of apps to create on your network. Ease of developer experience will further help you to get the right kind of developers inside and to get more developers. Again, it's similar to the wallet example that I gave for users. Now, if it's easier to build on your ecosystem, more developers will come in. The more support you can give in terms of templates and documentation, the more self-serve the experience becomes and more frictionless the experience becomes, and the faster that your network will grow. So keep these tips and strategies in mind as you go about building your ecosystem. Remember, it's a game of experimentation, and beyond experimentation, it's really about delivering value to this entire crypto ecosystem and landscape. What is the big differentiator that your network is really bringing to its users and builders? That's something that every network builder has to think about at various phases. The market evolves and also technology keeps evolving, but retaining your ecosystem, which is both the builders and users, that's very important. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe, hit the like button, and keep coming back for more. We have some awesome content coming out on crypto, VCs, startups, and so much more. See you guys next time.